Alright, I've made a start and I'm actually starting at step 1 for a change. Alrighty, so you're starting off with the cabin floor. You're putting in the controls. There's a couple of so you got these little tiny pieces that go in, E12. They have no hole or anything that they push into. They're just sitting on a flat surface, and it's a bit vague looking at the diagram, even though it's a pretty decent sized picture. But there's on the floor there's like a bit of a pin, flat pin, and they sit on top of that. The two yoke or controls, they show you putting the one in, and it's not until later on they show you putting the second one in, but I'll just put it in now. It's going in anyway, and I'll be painting the chairs off and gluing them on for ease to getting at it. I quite like, they got nice details on the floor. Your instrument panel, so you got several pieces going on here. So the bit that mounts to the floor, the main instrument panel, and the combing on top. The combing does have ejection pin marks under it, but you should be right when it's in position. You shouldn't really see them. And you got the slots that'll push into. I've had it on there. It's a very firm fit. You probably don't even need to glue it. That I've kept separate because it'll be black. And you got these hoses that go on the back. I don't know if that's for air ventilation or what purpose they serve, but anyway, they go on the back. There is two recesses in there that they push into, and the controls they're like a semicircle plug that goes in, so they can only go the one way, so you can't put them back to front like facing the wrong way. This piece, which is up in the nose, that you look through the glass, you'll see where did that sit? That'll sit in there. So you got slots there and there that pushes into. Now they called, where's that? They're saying paint that silver. I've had a quick look at some images, and to me it looks like it's the same colour as the rest of the interior, which is aircraft grey. So I'll probably paint it the aircraft grey, not silver. Now I'm starting on the chair. It's again, they've given you a large blown up image, but it's still vague on contact points. This bit was alright, the main seat, and then the cushion goes in, that's no problems. It's just backing the framework. So you got these frames. I couldn't, from the picture I can't really make out where the contact points are. There's nothing for it to slot into or anything, so I glued the back on, which is that piece. So that slot pushes onto the back of the chair, so I glued that on, and then I put the side frames on, and I still had issues with it where they sit. I put them on, and then I realised when you come in to put the armour plating on the side, there's a piece, C24, small piece, which I've glued in there. I had to remove where I'd glued that side frame, pull it off and glue it again to allow that to fit on. Where I had it was fouling that piece going on, and that sits, so that slots into there. Oh, hang on, wrong way, that way. so slots into that groove at the bottom and then just rests like that. It's a bit vague on these parts, and I need to probably think about filling and sanding back some of these ejection pin marks, because even though it's in the back of the cockpit, if the doors are open and you can look through, you will probably should be able to see the back of the... Oh, hang on, no, maybe not. Where's it? No, yeah, you will. You'll should be able to see the back of them, I think. Maybe not. The chairs sitting behind those chairs, maybe they'll block that view. So I might prepare a bit more of the steps here, and I'll build these chairs, finish building the pilot's chairs, build the other ones, and just dry fit them and see what I can see, type thing. Maybe I don't need to fill them in, but if I do, I do. Alright, I've put the foot pedals in. You can see by the image it's a bit vague, but they sit on there in between those pieces. There's no slot or anything for them, they just go face to face with that little pin on the pedal to the floor. So I've CA glued them, because otherwise you normal extra thin or something, you'd be sitting there holding it for ages trying to get it to bite. Would have been better if they had an actual slot for them. I'm going to clean up these ejection pins. I've done that one inside that plate. The little ones I'm leaving because you probably really won't see them. So that seat's done, ready for painting. Seats that go behind the pilots, I've got 2 legs, and then you've got 2 other bits that go in between, like that one there goes from there to there. I think it's a bit short, it should be a bit longer. I think it should touch higher up, but I've just positioned it where it'll fit. And you got a long one from the back to the front. So those 2 are done. I've cut off the cabin rear wall. These little pieces get glued on. They're like little eyelet tie downs, and then that will fit onto here. And then you got the bench seat, which will plug into there. That comes there, and then you got, so that is one of the legs there to hold the seat. Oh, I just had them as a loose fit, so they all sit along here, and that bench seat will plug into them, but they're a bit that way. They need a bit of a sand down, they're a bit tight to fit in there. So either widen that gap or thin them bits out to get them to sit. Probably, yeah, however you want to approach it. I was probably going to glue those legs in to paint as part of the floor, and then glue the back on, paint it. I can probably paint it all as one, and then plug this in later, the seat. So you can do it a couple of different ways, how you ever want to tackle it. Alright, so The big thing that I would say is missing from the kit is harnesses. Now they've given you a photo etch fret, but it's not. It's just for like mesh grills over the cooling areas and that, and a couple of bits and bobs. But what would have been nice if they included harnesses and lap belts, because there's so many of them. It's a helicopter, so every seat's got them, and you can see well inside a helicopter. So I'm doing my old cheap and nasty, so I got a roll of aluminium foil. It's sticky, so it's the backing comes off. So I cut off a section, peel it off and fold it over on itself, and you can see I've done a really rough job there, but it doesn't matter. You just lie it on your cutting mat and use your ruler to cut it with a nice sharp blade. And all that crinkles and wrinkles in it, I leave it because I think it just adds to the effect. And like I said, it's an effect. It's pretty crude. I don't make up the latches and that. I just cut the belt and put it in. It's just something there that adds another dimension to the look of it, and something visually you can look in and you can see some somewhat sort of a harness going on, or like I said, aftermarket probably be all over this, but I'm not hanging around waiting. That could be months. So all your other options, if you I keep all my old photo etch pieces, the frets. So I got some harnesses there, but they're not. It's from a 1/32 P40, but again, it's something you could do, because then you've got the buckles and that on there as well. But this is what I always do when I'm doing harnesses. Like I said, it's a bit nasty, but I think for myself it's better than looking in and seeing nothing. It's at least there's something there. You're creating a bit more detail to the look. Alrighty, so we have some harnesses on all seats. I've tried to keep them somewhat random, but a bit of a pattern going on there. My mind wants to keep things tidy. So like I said, it's a bit crude, but once it's all painted up, it will look like harnesses and lap belts. So I've glued that back piece on. They're loose fit at the moment, these side pillars. I was just doing a dry fit. They're not a real firm fit, not that that matters, but I'm just sort of checking things out, how it all fits together. So this is the ceiling part of it. That piece C10 is glued in, so obviously I'm painting all this separate, and then it'll fit on, and they slot in up the top like so, and there it all falls apart. And then it's a bit loose, but I was hoping to do a dry fit into the fuselage half. I've taken one off, cleaned up all the sprue gates, but I have faith it'll fit. I can't see that there's going to be an issue. So I'm at the stage now I start painting up all this cabin interior and start putting it together, weather it, give it a wash. So there's decals for these instrument panels. Is there? Where is it? The sheet. but there's nothing for the this overhead one. So that one I'll just I'll dry brush it, and I'll probably use some Posca pens. So I have some basic colours, they're 0.7mm, so they got a nice fine tip. That's the black one, I won't use that, but I'll probably use the white one and just mark in a few of the dials and switches, a couple red, white, it's just livening up. I'm not going to go look at an image and copy everything exactly. That's not for me. Yeah, so some parts like this is the same colour, but it's going to be easier to paint it off to get that plate and inside that, just for ease, and then glue it in. That one actually, I'll glue it, but I don't even think it needs. It was a pretty firm fit, I think. Yeah, but I will put a touch in there just to be sure. Like I said, I think the interior colour, main colour is aircraft grey, which I use heaps because it's one of the paints I use. It's Mr. Hobby. It's H57. I'll show it later if I remember. I haven't got it out yet, and probably take me 5 minutes looking through the 3,000 greys I have to find it. So yeah, I'll just start hooking into painting. Oh, the other part that I don't think I showed was just, I think that's for like a holds the maps, documents, that sort of thing. I'm guessing that's what I thought. It looks like a little leather case, briefcase, pouch type thing. I will have a look to see if I can see that in any images, but it's probably a hard position to find that one. So while I'm waiting for paint to dry on my cabin area, I've moved to start putting together some of the gearbox and the engine. Alright, the way it's engineered makes things a bit awkward. So you got the gearbox sits on this box, which will sit in here when it's all done, but you can't. What I want to do is glue that together so I can clean up that seam joint, but you can't, because you have to put, so this is I still got to put a piece of photo etch on here, but I've got to clean up the seam joint first, but that's all the other parts. So this will fit, so you got to hook that in there, and there's a tab that lines up with a slot in that mounting bracket, and that sits, so that mount has got little small pins that sit, which way are we out here? Into those little mount. They're probably, in real life, they're probably like rubbers or something like that. Anyway, to do that, so you got that elbow, so you need to put that in, and then you put that together, which I guess isn't too bad. You still clean that seam. I'm not sure, you really can't see, you can't put that in after if you glue that frame together. Yeah. So you have to do it after the fact, but that's just me. I like ease at getting at seam joints to clean it up and make it all nice and tidy, but you'll still be able to get at it. It's just a bit more awkward. And then you got the engine section, turbine. So you got the intake. Oh no, sorry, that'll be the exhaust fan. I've glued it in. and I'm just going to glue it together, and then I'm going to spray it after it's glued together. That way I can clean up that seam joint, and you can see there's two. I'm going to need to clean them up a bit. They're shallow, so either way you can fill it and sand it, or just sand it down. One's shallower than the other, or if you don't want to, you don't have to do it at all. If you look inside the exhaust, you may see them, but you'll definitely see that seam joint if you don't clean it up. And by the looks of it, I'm not gluing any of this in yet, because the way they've got it pictured, it looks like you need to put that way. Which way does it go? Exhaust points up, doesn't it? I don't know. Anyway, just a rough fit. I think you're going to need to, that might go in, that one, but you'll need to hook this in and over and under sort of thing. I can't do it yet because I need to clean that up better. But yeah, I wouldn't be going, well, definitely that end one, and I'm not sure about this one because you got that drive shaft as well. So definitely I'm waiting until I get all this sorted, cleaned up, and then I'll do a dry fit and see how it'll go together basically. But I might try and find a couple of images of it, the engine area. I might do a bit of BS and add a bit of wiring or something, maybe, I don't know yet. I might display it, because you have the engine covers. Where are we at? So you have the engine cover. I might pop one up and cut a piece of stretch sprue as a support to hold it open, something like that. At the moment I'm just spitballing ideas in my head, just so you can see some of that engine detail. I mean, there is detail there. How good it is, I can't tell you. I'm not a Huey mechanic, so, but it does have nice details, and if you add a bit of wire or something, it just might liven it up. And again, if I'm adding wires, I'm just making stuff up. I'm not building a carbon copy of an engine. Anyway, I'm not there yet, but so once that's all together, then that plugs onto the cabin, and then we're into the stage where putting it together, and you need to put in the tails bump skid before you join those halves, and that piece can fit on after they're glued together. And I'll also, when I glue up the cabin before I fit it, they're showing you there to paint the whole fuselage. I'll do a dry fit and see what actually is going to be seen, and I'll just paint that. I don't think all that will be seen, so there's no need to paint it all if that is the case. Alrighty, we got some paint down. So I'll just start with the instrument panel. You can see it's still wet, and I'm still applying a decal because there's such pretty high raised detail and low recess detail. It's a bit awkward to get that decal on. This one wasn't too bad, but I cut a couple of panels out because there was a lot of, in those sections I cut out, the switches are really high and it made it awkward to conform. I will paint, like use the Posca pen on them or something, or dry brush it. So I use, when I do instrument panels and kits, I apply that, so that makes your decal soft. So I give it like a really heavy coat of that, stick the decal on top, and then come in with a heavy solution of the Mark Softer, which is the setting. They're back to front. I don't know why they word it like that, but that's how they work. So that needs quite some time to dry off, so that'll need probably overnight. Alright, so the bench seat, painted up. The pilot's seats, so I've airbrushed the frames, hand painted the cushions and the harnesses. Like I said, they're not the greatest, but when you look inside it, you see, oh yeah, it's got harnesses. And the other seats behind pilots. Also done some chipping with some natural metal. Oh, sorry, natural steel, the colour's called. But yeah, it's like still an aluminium colour with a bit of sponge. And that same natural steel, I've dry brushed the foot pedals and the floor where the pilot's feet would scuff along there, and a bit of chipping on the controls. And I've Posca penned in some of the buttons on the controls, and has the same for that panel on the ceiling. That's Posca pen. So it's coming together nicely. So this needs a wash. It'd be easier to do the wash parts off and then put it together this time around, because it's so complex inside. I'll probably be using an enamel wash. I'll have to look, I don't know, maybe that one, dark wash or something like that. Not sure yet. I was getting back on this again. It's very, again, vagueness comes to mind for myself. I'm trying to work out the best way to get it together to line all these actuators linkages up. It's doesn't. So that piece there, which has that one linkage, so it was parts C12 and C13 glued together, and that's C26. The C12 and C13 have to fit inside. It's got a collar to go into here. It wouldn't fit. I had to sand it away to get it to push down. Even then I had to push a lot of force. So I dry fitted it to the linkage to make sure it was the right height. And this piece, which is C16, supposed to sit here somewhere. Again, they just got arrows pointing, and it's rather vague for me. I can't work it out, so I'm going to have to try and, there's other linkages that come around, I'm going to have to try and line them up, and then by where they sit, work out where this sits. It's, like I said, to me, my eyes, it's too smaller. It's not a small image, but for doing all these little parts going in, it's too small for me anyway. But that's just me. But I'll work it out. But anyway, so yeah, coming along nicely in the interior of the cabin.